leadership, again, I hear about from our alums, and the bond, I hear from our alums. And so about 2 years ago, I asked Scott Merchant, who was working with us at the time, a former student of mine, to take over this leadership institute. I kept saying, you know what? All these graduates keep telling me about how we built them as leaders and how we formed this bond. But honestly, I feel like it's grandma's recipe for spaghetti sauce. It's a little this, a little that. There's no, your sons didn't take any, I mean, we didn't take any classes in it. There was no manual in it. There was no book about it. I said, maybe it's time for us to try and put the recipe together. And so Scott and I started to do some research, and he ran across a school, famous, by the way, because it started the same year as us and has quite a football track record, Cincinnati Moeller. Cincinnati Moeller, where Jerry Faust started their school football team about the same time as Elder, and sent about 5 students to Australia about 6 years ago. And I think they were there, their summer month is, or our summer is their winter, so they were there during, I think, June, July, something like that. And they were at the school for like 6 weeks. And the kids came back to Moeller, by the way, which is run by the Marianus brothers. And they said to the brothers, you have got to add this thing called the house system to Moeller. And all I can tell you is the house system, the only connection I can give you is, anyone? The movies, right? Harry Potter. That's where you hear about the house, the house is going. Well, Moeller, after about a year or two of checking this out, set this up about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and they had the most unbelievable set of experiences from building this idea, which in essence was, rather than having a school which is the seniors, then the juniors, then the sophomores, then the freshmen. In essence, what the house system did was it tipped it vertically and said, why not mix the seniors with the juniors, with the sophomores, with the freshmen? And in the process of developing that camaraderie all 4 years, why don't you give the seniors a chance to learn to be leaders? Rather than us always jumping in front and saying, do this, do that, why don't you let your seniors who are about to learn, why don't you give them the chance to do that? They've had tremendous experiences. Here's one that jumped at me right away. Within a year, they saw detentions reduced by 50%. Kids literally understood that they had to answer not just to their parents and not just to the deans, but to one another. Because guess what they did, guys? We're great at this testosterone competition, right? They put house against house and said whoever has the fewest detentions repeats at the end of the semester. Whoever's got the highest GPA, we're going to do this. And they made it a competition. And what they found was suddenly, this guy was about to do something wrong, his buddy grabs it, hey, you can't be doing that, man. Get your tie on. You don't want to get a judge. Hey, we don't say sorry. Justice Under guy, we don't use that term anymore for those people. It's now detention. But they also talk about things like, now, Moeller's very much like Brother Rice. They said, you know what? We put together a Christmas carol singing competition. Again, imagine your 16, 17-year-old sons, right? As loud as they can. Said you could not, the first year we thought, okay, this is not good. And what they found instead was, much like if you watch soccer matches on TV, it was this unbelievable collection of guys who suddenly felt strong. Why? Because they weren't by themselves. They were singing, hey, it's 100 of us singing strong. And suddenly I don't have to worry about just my voice being heard. It's all of us together. Story after story after story. This house adopted a family that was struggling. And suddenly for Christmas, that family had 40, 50 gifts and a meal and all, and the kids all showed up there. Things that changed people's lives. Well, we went down and I'm telling you what, we were blown away. We came back to tell the teachers here, and as you, like most of us, hey, sure, it's going to make sense for us, and no, we'll do it our way. We had the people from Moeller come up about a year ago, have done a bunch of training since. We are convinced that the band of brothers, they call it house, it's for us, it's the band of brothers. We're convinced that this is going to make a tremendous difference. Frankly, I'll make the prediction that in 3 or 4 years, I'll bet most of the other all-boys Catholic schools adopt this idea. It is too powerful. I'll give you an example. In 1964, I even venture to say when I was a senior in 76, 77, how many different schools do you think were represented in your class from grade schools? Take a guess. Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty decent guess. The 10 Catholic theater schools, maybe a couple of public school kids, 250 kids, 40, 50 from Holiday, 40, 50 from Newville, you know, all that kind of stuff. Okay? The world is different. Nowadays, if you don't know this, particularly freshman age, you may have heard this recently, the current freshman class of 190 kids comes from 58 different schools. Which means that the vast majority of kids don't come here knowing 40 or 50 other kids. The vast majority come here knowing 1, 2, 3. Now, how many of you would like to tell me that your 14-year-old son does not think that friends are important? Right? They don't make a choice to go to college generally where their buddies are going, but I can tell you that child psychologists of 13, 14, they do not want to be by themselves. They want to be with their friends. They want to be, like all of us do, in a loving, accepted environment. One of the other benefits of being your brothers, hopefully for those of you who have freshman sons, your sons have felt comfortable from very early on. I hope they know that somebody knows their name, that there's a senior who cares about them. One of the things that cracks me up historically, we have a lot of famous guys in our school who've done a lot of different things. I mean, Mike, let's just take a sport one because it's publicly famous. Mike Lotus, the guy who did this about 10 years ago, in my mind, only about 1,000 people knew what that was. Anybody?
6 Super Bowls.
The only guy in the history of the NFL to be in 6 Super Bowls. And that the game before the Super Bowl when it was about to go out and get this, okay? To this day, I have guys, now Mike was class of 85. To this day, I have guys from like the class of 86, 7, 8, 9, 90, maybe the mid-90s who say, could you introduce me someday to my coach? I laugh and say, can you get over, man? You're like 40 years old, okay? I mean, it's not a big deal. But I gotta tell you, I was guilty of it. Greg Collins, now that was a name to me. Greg Collins, in 1971, was Brother Rice's first All-American football player. He went to Notre Dame, so of course, I knew him as a kid. Was on the national championship team in 1973. For years, I tried to meet this guy. I knew his brother, and I taught him a couple of his cousins. About 4 years ago, I finally out in LA, I get a chance to meet him. He's an actor. I guarantee you've seen him. He's been in like 100 movies, been in Cheers, all kinds of different things. Great guy. Still looks like he'd kill all of us physically. Built like a tank. And I found myself doing this. It's true across the board for us. And part of the reason for that is that historically, the relationships that were built here at Brother Rice were that it was within your class. Talking to a senior, I was a 7th grader trying. Now, Greg Collins, honestly, if I brought Greg in 10 seconds, you guys would all be laughing. He's one of the nicest, best guys. By the way, you're like this. At the age of 55, he got married for the first time to his twin 1-year-olds. God does have a sense of humor. By the way, I'll add to this. Turn the camera on, just kidding. This is a true story. And all of you have seen Greg because if you watched the Super Bowl a year ago and watched the commercials and saw the Viagra commercial of the guy driving the motorcycle in the Southwest, that's Brother Rice's own, Greg Collins. But for Cassie, I have no problem with that.